The Kyle Rittenhouse bond hearing. Today, I'm going to do an analysis of this hearing, which was an hour long. Now, I did not include the hearing in this video. However, I will include the link. Truth be told, you don't necessarily need to see the video to know what I'm talking about and to enjoy this video and learn something from it. However, it would be helpful if you watched it before, but you can still enjoy this video regardless. It's fascinating on a whole bunch of different aspects, and I will tell you why. Thank you everybody for joining me. I'm Joe Pometto, Joe the lawyer. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney in Pittsburgh, PA. I have my own legal practice on this channel. I break down legal news. I do legal analysis. Okay, we learn about the law. We have fun at the same time. So thank you for tuning in. If you like my content, please subscribe. Most of my viewers are not subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000. I'm very close. Come on, guys, get me over the hurdle. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Even if you don't like me but you watch the video, hit the subscribe, okay? And you don't even have to come back. But for the one time you're here, hit the subscribe for me. Thank you very much. We do have a ritual here on this channel. Before we watch, we take a sip of our favorite beverage together. This is my firm cup. See here, Joe Pometto Law. That's my law firm. Okay. It tastes better when you sip together. I have here coffee, the nectar of the gods, whatever you're drinking. Cheers to you. Cheers to me. It tastes better when we sip together. Have a sip with me. Cheers. Okay. Love me some coffee. So let me set this up for you. I've been following the Kyle Rittenhouse case on this channel. I've posted a couple of videos. You look at the early ones. I did a self-defense analysis of the initial contact and shooting that occurred. Now I want to follow the life of the case. I'm a criminal defense attorney. This was a bond hearing. I've done dozens of bond hearings. What bond is when you're facing a crime, when an individual is charged with a crime, they are innocent until proven guilty, until you've had your trial or put in a guilty plea. However, the court system needs to guarantee that you will show up, keep coming to court, and not break the law further. So what has the court system come up with? Bond. That's right, bond. And most bond is monetary, where the judge will set a certain amount of money that the person accused of the crime must post. And when they post that money, they are set free. Sometimes there are other conditions placed on them as well. Okay. And as long as that money is posted, they have an incentive to come back. The incentive, because if they go on the lam, they could surrender all that money to the state, and that's when like bounty hunters get involved. So Kyle Rittenhouse was the shooter in Kenosha, and I'm going to go in this bond hearing. You don't need to have seen it. You're still going to understand this. Was a shooter at the Kenosha riots and protests that occurred over the summer. He was down there. With a rifle. One person was shot and killed by him allegedly, and another person was shot and injured. So he's charged with first-degree murder. His bond was originally set at, I believe, $1 to $2 million, and through charity and the help of various organizations, he was able to post that bond. So he's been a free man since he was charged with this originally, which I think was about 6 months ago. So very recently, he went to a bar after one of his court dates, and he was drinking beer, and he had on a t-shirt. And what people have been saying, what the media has been saying, is he was sort of like not showing any remorse for what happened and flaunting things in the face of the court system, the government. This has annoyed a lot of people. Also, the local district attorney's office, who's the prosecutor, they had brought up this issue about Rittenhouse not giving the correct address, okay, or an accurate address. Now, the reason he didn't do that is because him and his attorney have legitimate concerns about the safety of Rittenhouse and his family, because he's been receiving a lot of death threats. However, the district attorney and the court also have an interest in knowing what this person's address is, so that they can serve him with mail, so that they can find him if he violates his bond, okay? 99% of people are going to provide their address to the court when they're they're accused of a crime, and you have to keep it updated, all right? And generally, it's public information. Well, here, because of the death threats that Rittenhouse has been receiving, Rittenhouse's attorney don't want it to be public information. The district attorney, who in this case is District Attorney Singer, I think he's acting here with a lot of public pressure on his back. This district attorney's office, there's a lot of public pressure for him to be aggressive in the prosecution of Rittenhouse, because this is a super politically, racially charged issue, right? He's down there. It brings together all the issues that are in controversy in America today, right? It's a white person who's down there to protect businesses. The protests came out of the death of a black man. They're down there. He's got a gun, open carry, right? Second Amendment, racial issues, riots, everything is going on here. So very politically charged on both sides. So DA Singer, and my first impression is he's got a lot of political pressure on him to prosecute this case aggressively. So he brings this motion to get the bond either revoked or reduced. If they revoke the bond, they'll put him in jail. I'm sorry, revoked or raised. If they raise the bond, he'll have to come up with more money or go to jail. The DA also wants the judge to issue a warrant and have him arrested until he updates his address. Very aggressive moves. So the Judge Schroeder, Judge Bruce Schroeder, holds this hearing. This hearing is put up on YouTube. The judge actually mentions at the beginning, he says, due to the public concerns here, we're going to put this on YouTube. Let me tell you, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I live in Pittsburgh. You will never see a trial in Pennsylvania on YouTube. You won't even see a camera get in the courtroom. All right, in Pennsylvania, certainly not in Pittsburgh. Okay, it's funny to me that some of these a lot of the courts out west do this, like California, and you watch court TV. Let me tell you something. Court TV, all those trials you watch on TV, none of them took place in Pennsylvania. The judicial system doesn't allow it here, and so it's almost wild to me that it is allowed. I see the interest in it, but they recorded this bond hearing, and here's the thing, in the concern that out of the interest of my words today, transparency, it's a good thing, because what happened is open to the public. Everybody can see. It puts a spotlight on things so that so there's transparency. People will be less likely to lie or pull shady things, right? Because there's a spotlight on everything. At the same time, it can turn trials into a circus, okay? I mean, look at me. I'm covering this after I watched it, okay? But this is public knowledge. You publicize, you put these things on TV, boom, boom, boom. Watch trial by media on Netflix, okay? And it can inflame entire populations. So there's a case to be made for not putting trials on TV, okay, because shooting this information out to the airwaves, these videos where people can see, can stir things up. But there's also an interest in transparency, because transparency helps stop people from lying, and also stops corruption, okay, and the public can learn from it. So it's this balancing of interests. It's very fascinating. But this was put on YouTube. The judge knew about it. Judge Bruce Schroeder, right at the beginning. Now, my first impression of this, and this is, I'm an attorney, again, I do this every single day, is the judge starts going after the district attorney, the prosecutor, right away. Judge Schroeder goes after prosecutor Singer right away. The first 20 minutes of conversation is those two going back and forth, and Singer arguing that the bond should be revoked. What's happening there when your defense counsel is the judge is trying your case for you. And that's always the best result, is when the judge, because the judge has already reviewed likely the written motions. There's been written, and he knows what's going on the case, okay? But there's been written submissions, so he already knows the arguments before you have the oral argument. And if the judge is going after one side right away, then that's a great thing. You kind of already know that things are probably going to go your way. And let me give you a little anecdote from my own personal experience. One of the first cases I had, it was a magistrate case. It wasn't much of money. I was representing some people who were tenants, who were very poor, actually immigrants to this country. And I brought a case against the landlord for a security deposit, and I wrote up my argument in the complaint, and I went in there and I didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. The judge just went after the landlord right away, and they had a back and forth for 20 minutes. I'm sitting there with my clients just looking at them, okay, and I won the case. And when they walked out, they were thanking me. I was like, don't thank me, thank the judge. Obviously, I had something to do with it, but that's a telltale sign. Usually, if the judge goes after one party right away, he's probably going to side with the other party, and the judge had likely made his mind up here. Now, there was a whole bunch of arguing over technical details of the law, okay? And ultimately, the judge decided not to modify the bond here. The district attorney found himself sort of on the defensive, because what the law actually requires, okay, is that certain terms and conditions be placed in the bond in order for the bond to be revoked. But there was never really an official order that said that Rittenhouse had to live at this certain location. So even though he hadn't updated his address, he had moved, and his defense attorney fell on the sword there and took responsibility for that. Even though he hadn't updated it, okay, it wasn't really technically a condition of the bond, so the judge didn't see the need to revoke the bond or change it in any way. However, the district attorney showed up. Mr. Singer, the district attorney was there, Bruce Singer. He had an assistant district attorney on the call. One of the parents of one of the victims, the parent of the victim who passed away, that guy's attorney, and then like another random attorney. So the victims here there were like 4 attorneys, and then the victim's father, all there pressing against the court here, okay? And maybe this is a bit of the problem with televising these things, because they see this as an opportunity to tell their story and to persuade the public. All right. And Rittenhouse is there with his defense attorney. You know, it's just 2 people against 5. And trust me, that can matter. The numbers can matter. And the judge is there. And so it was an hour long. And the judges typically will give everybody the opportunity to be heard. Now, Judge Schroeder, I thought he's a very interesting guy, and I thought he was pretty fair. You know, at one point he says, because the DA brings up the facts, the prosecutor brings up the fact that, you know, there could be street demonstrations over what happened. He says, what do you want me to do? Gag a street demonstration? Gag a street demonstration? Like, what's the judge going to do? Okay, he can't control what happens outside the doors. And you know, there's these allegations of white supremacist groups, et cetera, him being affiliated with them. And at one point, well, I can't remember my notes now, but the judge said something along the lines of bringing up some of these issues that were tertiary as far as what's happening outside was just not in order. He wants to hear what is happening on the case. And so I thought that was very interesting. The DA brought up the protests over and over and over again. Okay. One thing I liked about DA Singer here is he brought up a really good point about the original address that they had for Rittenhouse was now occupied by new people, okay? And he made sort of a public service statement, and this is how you knew they're talking to the wider public, because they all know this is on YouTube, is he says, look, Rittenhouse is no longer there, et cetera, please leave these people alone. Another fascinating thing that I took from this was this Judge Schroeder, doesn't allow any of the attorneys to refer to the people who have been hurt by the crime as victims. I can tell you in Pennsylvania courts, we use the word victim all the time, but this judge is onto something. He's onto something. We shouldn't be calling them the victim. Nobody knows the facts yet. Neither party has been put on trial, and the defendant is innocent until proven guilty. So how can you go around calling the person who was the target of the crime a victim before a judge or a jury has even decided the facts? It's all a game of persuasion, and you're trying to persuade each side all the way until the trial. And by labeling one individual or another a victim, okay, those are persuasion wins for the prosecution, because you're already when you hear the word victim, you're creating sympathy in your mind. And I'd never heard that before. So when the judge said that, I thought that was fascinating. Also, having all these people at a bond hearing, this is not regular. This is not regular. I understand that this is a large, high-profile case, but to have the family members there, come in there and share their concerns is a little strange. Again, there's a big high profile. This is big and high profile, so I guess it's different. One of the things that the prosecution kept arguing was that his bond should be raised or revoked and a warrant should be issued because the defendant was showing a lack of remorse. Okay, and he was out when he was at the bar, he was taking selfies with people, etc., etc. There's nothing in the law that says that a person has to show a lack of remorse before they've been proven guilty. Okay, there's nothing in the law that says that this lack of remorse is a legal reason to revoke someone's bond. Okay, a person charged of a crime has the right to assert their innocence the entire time. Now, I'll tell you where the remorse thing actually matters, and it shouldn't matter for bond. Basically, what the prosecution is arguing here is, if you're on bond, you better go live in a hole. You better go stay in a hole until your trial is up. Until your trial is up. And really what you're sort of doing is you're denigrating the court to a certain degree. And look, sometimes you have to go after the judges in the court if they made a wrong decision, what you think is the wrong decision. And that's what this attorney was doing here. I must say about Prosecutor Singer, I think he's a good lawyer. He's smart. He had a lot of arguments. He was ready to go. Okay, but lack of remorse is not a reason to revoke a bond. It's just not a reason to revoke bond. Lack of remorse will matter if this man is convicted and then sentenced, and then the judge can take that into account at the sentencing. But right now, he's an innocent person. Perhaps the real issue here was that the bond should have been set differently right from the beginning. And what you will see in some cases now is for a homicide person, the bond may just be revoked, period. They've just maybe granted no bond at all. A judge can do that, okay? You can do $1 million bond. You can do no bond at all. So those things, maybe that's the core of the issue here was the bond right from the beginning, but I don't know how things are normally done in Wisconsin. There was a female attorney here, I wrote her name down, Kim Motley, I believe. And I thought she was a really good lawyer, and she represented the victim's family in this case. Okay, and she talked about how there were other people who had higher bonds on different crimes. Okay, and I thought that was a good comparison to make. And I thought she made some really good arguments on behalf of the victim. But again, this is just getting into the public perception type thing. Like she's there just to put extra pressure on, put this, to persuade the public, right? Maybe cases nowadays are tried more in the minds of the public, at least a case like this, than they are in the courtroom. But she railed on the lack of remorse thing. And I personally, I don't think that should play into a bond calculation at all. There was one interesting exchange where she brought up the fact that there was a man of color who was charged with a similar crime and had a higher bond set, and the judge got really upset. He said, we shouldn't be taking color into account, and he cited some very old Supreme Court law from, Plessy v. Ferguson, really hundreds of years ago, and he said, we shouldn't be taking into account whether for someone's benefit or to someone's detriment, the race of the individuals at question. And I thought he gave a good explanation for why that is his position, because what she was trying to do, and I don't blame her for doing this. She's an attorney, she's advocating, and she's trying to say, look, this man of color is treated differently from this man who is white, but their crimes are similar or the same. Now, here's the thing. the real issue there is, are the crimes similar or the same? I don't know. Okay, but the judge didn't like the fact that she brought up that this person, the case she was referring to was a person of color. Now, maybe she learned her lesson with this particular judge. As far as persuasion to the general public, probably a very smart move. She also had her facts in order and was a good and aggressive attorney. I thought Kyle's attorney was also a pretty good lawyer, Mark Richards. He made some strong arguments there. Really, the person that I liked the most was the judge. I thought that this judge was very good. He tried very hard to be fair here. And one of the things that he said is he didn't originally set the bond either. Okay, so when the bond was originally set was when most of these arguments should have truly been made, because now you're trying to change something. You're asking a judge to change something another judge did. No judge wants to do that. They want to trust the judgment of the other judge. So they should have argued harder at the first bond hearing if they wanted something different. Another thing I can say though, I could understand it. This happens all the time. If they wanted to put this defendant on house arrest, that's not out of order in situations like this, especially when the charge is first-degree murder, because he's literally facing going to jail for the rest of his life. So house arrest may be appropriate in this circumstance. Listen, if I have a homicide defendant, if my defendant was put on house arrest, I'd be like, high five, and we'd be happy. Instead of $1 million, $2 million bond or a complete bond revocation, okay, I do think that house arrest would be appropriate here. And it was that attorney, Motley, who brought that up. I thought that was a good move by her. The other player here was the victim's father, and I understand why he was very emotional in bringing up the lack of remorse, etc., etc. Again, it's a little unusual for the victim's family. Don't call him a victim in this judge's courtroom, but it's a little unusual for the victim's family to testify at a bond hearing. So basically what the judge ultimately decided to do is he didn't see cause to modify the bond. The DA moved the poll a couple of times, moved the goalposts. First he wanted a warrant issued, and then he wanted the bond increased by $200,000, which maybe Mr. Rittenhouse wouldn't be able to post that, and he would end up sitting in jail until his court date. The judge decided to do none of that, ordered that the address be provided to the court, but not to the district attorney's office. Oh, and on that point, with that order with the address not being provided to the district attorney's office, the judge didn't articulate this, but I believe his concern was that it could possibly get leaked, that the address could get leaked. So he only wanted the address provided to the court and the sheriff's office. The DA really, really wanted the address sent to him. But again, I think the concern was with the judge, he didn't articulate it, but I think this is what he wanted. He didn't want the address to get out because that could lead to additional harassment. So overall, all the lawyers here seem very capable, and this judge seems very capable as well. So I think what we're going to see when this trial starts, and I'll be covering it, is very competent attorneys. We're not going to see a circus, which some trials turn into. I can't say that for sure. Okay, it's possible. But with these lawyers, I don't predict it. I saw a lot of very professional lawyers here and a very professional judge on this case, which frankly is a good thing for all parties involved, for the victim and the victim's family and the defendant. Okay, this is how the system is supposed to work. Really good lawyers and really good judges go at each other, okay, and hopefully the jury determines the truth and makes a decision and you get close to justice. And like I've said before, one of my favorite legal movies, The Verdict, with Paul Newman, is you may not get justice through the court system, but you get an opportunity at justice. That's all the court system can really guarantee. Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in to Joe Pometto, Joe the Lawyer. If you like my content, subscribe. Thank you very much. I love you guys. Peace.